Since the night before, Marcus Wynn's voice had been reduced to a whisper. Not from silence, but from singing the same lullaby over and over. He had not slept, had not eaten. His fingers trembled as they brushed the edge of his daughter's hospital blanket. But the song never stopped, because when Lena first slipped into the coma, her body had shut down. Yet something about the melody kept her tethered. The ICU lights hummed quietly. Machines beeped like metronomes. And there he sat, hunched over, singing with everything he had left, not because a neurologist advised it, not because a nurse suggested comfort through sound, but because of something or someone he saw too. Nights ago, a boy with no shoes, standing just outside the glass, staring through the window with the softest eyes Marcus had ever seen. Micah, no one else saw him. No one else could. Micah said one thing before vanishing. Keep singing. She hears you, even in the dark. Doctors had told Marcus to prepare for the worst. 7 days without a response. Her brain scans showed minimal activity. If she does not wake up by tomorrow, one had said quietly, you may need to consider next steps. But that was before last night, because just after 6 a.m., something impossible happened. Lena's hand moved. Not a twitch, not a muscle spasm. She reached her right hand, the one that had been completely still, toward her father. Marcus gasped so loudly that a nurse rushed in, thinking something was wrong. But Lena's vitals were steady, her heart rate strong, her color improving. And then her fingers curled into his palm, as if to say, I'm still here. Dr. Callahan flipped through her clipboard, brows furrowed. There's no clinical reason this should be happening, she muttered. No drugs, no interventions, nothing that would cause this level of neural restoration. Marcus looked up slowly, his voice barely audible. You can call it an anomaly if you want, he said, but I know what I saw, and I know what I heard. His eyes turned toward the window to no sign of the barefoot boy, but his presence lingered like a hymn that would not fade. Before the hospital, before the silence, Marcus Wynn lived a life full of sound. His voice once echoed through sold-out theaters, the kind where even the ushers stopped to listen. A platinum-selling artist by 30, Marcus drove a black Range Rover up to his lake house in Telluride every summer. His daughter Lena would dance barefoot in the gravel driveway, while his wife Camille made peach cobbler in the kitchen that always smelled like cinnamon and honey. But then came the diagnosis. First it was Camille, an undetected aneurysm. Gone in a moment. Then Lena, only 9, collapsed during gym class. A rare neurological condition, aggressive, rapid onset. No one had answers, just probabilities. Marcus disappeared after that. From the stage, from the cameras, from life. He sold the lake house, parked the Range Rover in his brother's garage, and stopped singing. Because the only thing more painful than silence was hearing his own voice when there was no one left to sing to. Until Micah, the first time Marcus saw him, the rain had been coming down in sheets. It was just past midnight. Marcus had stepped outside the hospital to breathe, to fall apart in the dark without witnesses. And there, under the overhang, near the ambulance bay, stood a boy, 12, maybe 13. No umbrella. His sneakers were soaked, one untied. An old army coat swallowed his frame. Marcus had never seen eyes like that, steady, luminous, like they belonged to someone who had seen the other side of sorrow and come back with peace in his pocket. You're Marcus Wynn, the boy had said quietly. Marcus did not respond. She hears you. The boy continued, voice calm but certain. Even now, keep singing. Marcus blinked, looked away, looked back. The boy was gone. Security had no record of anyone entering. The nurses said no child matched that description. And when Marcus asked to check the visitor log, the clipboard was blank. But something about that voice. It stuck. So that night, he sang. Brokenly, hoarsely, but he sang. And for the first time in weeks, Lena's monitors flickered with something new, rhythmed. He did not tell the doctors. He did not tell his family. But from that moment on, Marcus knew. Whatever Micah was, he was not a stranger. He was a sign. By morning, Lena's skin held warmth again, the kind the nurses had not felt in days. Her color, once pale and dusky, now carried a soft blush. Her breathing had steadied. Machines that once screamed warning tones now hummed quietly with steady rhythm. Doctors gathered with their charts and clipped pens, whispering to each other just outside the door. None of them said the word miracle, but none of them could explain what was happening either. Marcus stayed silent through their questions. He did not mention the barefoot boy. He just kept singing. That afternoon, when Marcus stepped out to wash his face, something on Lena's window caught his eye, a square of paper taped from the outside. It fluttered slightly against the glass in the hospital breeze. Marcus pushed open the window latch just enough to pull it free. The handwriting was crooked, almost like a child's. But the message was clear. Sometimes healing comes before waking to don't. Stop. She hears you. Micah, his knees buckled as he sat down beside her again. When a nurse came in to adjust Lena's fore, she noticed the note. Marcus simply folded it in half and tucked it inside his shirt pocket. He had no plans to share it, not yet. Not until he understood what any of this meant. That evening, as twilight bled across the floor tiles, Marcus sang the same lullaby again. His voice cracked with fatigue. His fingers trembled as he brushed her hair from her forehead. He sang for her soul to find its way back. And then, Lena moved. Her eyelids twitched. Marcus leaned closer, his heart thudding against his ribs. Lena's lips parted. Her voice was barely audible, as thin as mist, but the word was unmistakable. Daddy. Marcus let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. He pressed his hand against hers, but Lena was not finished. Her eyes opened fully now, blinking against the hospital lights. Where's the boy? She whispered. Marcus froze. What boy? The one who talked to me in the dark, she said. He said you were calling me, that I had to follow your song. Her breathing hitched. He held my hand. He knew my name. Marcus felt the floor tilt under him. He did not prompt her, did not feed her words. But Lena kept going, her voice growing steadier. He told me stories. About a garden. About a river that sings. He said I could stay or come back. But he wanted me to choose. And when I asked what to follow, he said, listen, your father never stopped. She looked at Marcus, her eyes shining with new life. I came back because of you. And him. The staff scrambled to document everything. They ran tests, blood work, scans. But the mystery only deepened. The cameras, Marcus demanded to see them. Security hesitated, but eventually agreed. They queued up footage from every night Marcus had been in the room singing. There he was, night after night, slouched beside Lena's bed, his lips moving, sometimes standing, sometimes asleep in the chair, but every hallway shot, every window reflection, empty, not a single image of Micah, not a silhouette, not a footprint. Could be a glitch, the technician mumbled. Marcus said nothing. He walked back into Lena's room, slid the note from his pocket, and placed it gently in her hand. I think he's real, she said softly. Marcus nodded. So do I. The hallway smelled like antiseptic and old coffee, but Marcus needed the silence more than air. Lena was stable, breathing on her own, color in her cheeks. It should have been enough. But inside Marcus, a storm was still spinning that he leaned against. The cold wall, eyes shut, forehead pressed to his fist. His body ached with 7 days of unrelenting tension. Yet peace refused to settle. That was when he heard it. A voice, steady and gentle, just behind his shoulder. You did good, Mr. Wynn. Marcus turned. Micah stood 10 feet away, in no shoes. No shadows. Just stillness, like the world paused when he entered it. His coat was the same one from before, oversized and faded. But tonight, it seemed less like something worn and more like something given. Like it carried stories of other children who had worn it before. Micah stepped forward, his feet silent against the linoleum. She asked for you, he said. Now she has you. That's better. Marcus swallowed hard. You were really there. With her. Micah nodded once. In the dark? Marcus asked, needing to hear it aloud. Yes, Micah said simply. She was afraid, but not lost. Marcus looked at the boy, his heart breaking open in ways he did not have words for. I do not know what you are, he said, but thank you. Micah tilted his head slightly, like he had heard those words 1,000 times and still did not quite understand why people always whispered them like prayers. Marcus took a step forward. Will I ever see you again? Micah looked thoughtful for a moment. Maybe, he said, or maybe someone else will. There was a long pause, a quiet hum in the air that felt more spiritual than electric. Then Micah added, tell her stories. Every night, even when she's grown. Never stop singing. Marcus's throat tightened. I won't, he promised. Micah smiled, barely. Then he turned and walked down the hallway. Not hurried, not slow, just away. Marcus blinked. There were no doors along that stretch, no turns, no shadows to swallow him up. And yet, in 2 seconds, Micah was gone. Just like before, Marcus stood there for a full minute, unmoving, memorizing every detail. The air, the light, the quiet hum of machines behind the wall. Then he walked back to Lena's room, sat beside her, and whispered a story he had not told in years. One about her first time riding a carousel. How she insisted the horse's name was Daisy and that they should buy it afterward. She smiled in her sleep. He kept singing, not because he feared losing her, but because he had finally remembered how it felt to be whole. 3 months later, Lena took her first unassisted steps across their living room floor. She walked slowly, one sock foot at a time, her arms out for balance. Marcus watched in silence from the couch, his hands gripping the edge of the cushion like a lifeline. Each step she took felt like a revolution. By the time she reached the window, tears were already running down his face. She turned, out of breath, but grinning. "Did you see that?" Marcus laughed. "I saw every second." The doctors had warned him about setbacks, about delayed healing. But Lena was proving all their predictions wrong. Her mind was sharp, her memory intact, and her heart more open than ever. In the weeks that followed, Marcus made a decision that startled everyone around him. That he sold the Range Rover, the lake house upstate, the old publishing rights that still sent him small checks every quarter. Friends called it a midlife crisis. He called it a return. That he poured every dollar into a crumbling brick building on the edge of their neighborhood, a place most people passed without seeing. But Marcus saw it. That he saw its future. He named it Rise and Resonance, a nonprofit arts center for children who had lived through too much and been heard too little. By the time the peeling paint was scraped off and the windows replaced, Lena was strong enough to help. She chose the colors for the main wall mural: deep indigo, soft gold, forest green. She said the space should feel like dusk right before a song begins. She painted for weeks, hands covered in streaks of color, brushstrokes slow and careful. When the mural was finished, it stopped every visitor at the door. A boy stood in the center, barefoot, dust on his cheeks, a coat too large for his frame. He extended one hand into the dark, his expression unreadable. But somehow, it made people feel seen. Beneath the image, in Lena's neat handwriting, was a single line: "He didn't have wings. He had faith." People asked if it was based on someone real. Lena always answered the same way: yes. But she never said more. One afternoon, Marcus passed a familiar corner near their old apartment. A man with a battered guitar case strummed something soft and broken. Marcus stopped and dropped a few bills in the open case. The man looked up. "Thanks, brother." Marcus nodded. "You from around here?" "Used to be." The man squinted at him. "You ever hear of a kid named Micah?" Marcus went still. The busker chuckled. "Tiny guy, always barefoot. Used to sing with me. Said he only carried truth." Marcus's throat tightened. "What happened to him?" he asked. The man shrugged, eyes distant. "One day he just vanished. Like he was never there. People thought he was a ghost. But I think he was just light, in a place that needed it." Marcus stood silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady. "Yeah," he said. "That sounds about right." As he walked away, the melody behind him shifted, softened, almost like the wind itself was humming along. Lena did not want to be famous. She just wanted the music to mean something. The first video went up quietly. Just her voice, a soft piano, and a flickering candle beside a photo of the mural they had painted together. She called the channel Micah's Echo.no. Big introduction. No backstory. Just the title of the song, The Light That Waited. It reached 5,000 views in 2 days. By the end of the week, their inbox was flooded. Messages from ICU beds and burned-out dorm rooms. From rehab centers and halfway houses. From a woman in hospice who said the melody reminded her she was still here. Some messages were just a line or two. Others spilled over paragraphs. But nearly every one ended the same way: "I thought I was lost. But now I think maybe I'm just not finished yet." Lena read every message out loud. Marcus wrote back to each one, even if it was just a single word: "Here." They kept posting. Not just songs, stories too. Drawings. Voice memos from kids. who had never told anyone what they had survived. The channel grew, not in numbers. In gravity.it became a place people whispered about. A quiet pocket of the internet where honesty could breathe. 1 year to the day since Lena's hand moved on that hospital bed. They hosted a small gathering in the courtyard behind Rise and Resonance. Folding chairs, string lights, a weathered wooden stage. There was no press, no fanfare, just people who had felt something when they heard the echo. Marcus stood off to the side, camera in hand, watching Lena tune her guitar. She wore a sunflower pin, a gift from one of the subscribers in hospice. When she stepped up to the mic, she did not say much, just one sentence. "This song found me in the dark. I hope it finds you too." And then she sang the same lullaby Marcus had sung in that hospital room, the one Micah had hummed in the corner, the one the doctors could not explain. Her voice was stronger now, wiser, but just as tender. The audience did not make a sound until the final chord faded into the trees. Marcus scanned the crowd as people began to clap. He froze. There, near the edge of the circle, stood A.B.O. wide and O shoes. Same coat, same stillness. Their eyes met for just a second, and then he smiled. A quiet, knowing smile. By the time Marcus blinked, the space was empty, but the warmth stayed, just like always, just like Micah. Marcus never liked the word miracle. Not because he did not believe in them, but because most people got the definition wrong. They expected sky-splitting thunder, burning bushes, voices booming from the clouds. But what he had witnessed? It was quieter than that. Quieter and deeper. It was a barefoot boy sitting cross-legged in a hospital hallway, humming a tune only the broken could hear. It was a crumpled note taped to a window with no fingerprints on the glass. It was a daughter's hand reaching up through silence, not because someone told her to, but because something whispered she still had time to. He looked back on it all and thought. Micah did not wake Lena up. He reminded the world how to hold on, how to soften, how to listen when there is nothing left to say. Rise and Resonance. One wall remains untouched. Just a blank space and a single plaque beneath it. It reads, "For the ones who arrive without being seen and leave before we can thank them." Kids often ask who the wall is for. Marcus always smiles and says, "It is for someone who once gave us a song." Every now and then, he hears Lena humming it in the kitchen, or catches a child singing a phrase that was never written down. And every now and then, just at the edge of twilight, when the light turns soft and the street is empty, he swears he sees a figure just standing there, still. Watching. No shoes. No name, just presence. Marcus walks out and checks. There is never anyone there, but there is always a warmth in the air, and somehow, that is enough. He once said it quietly during a podcast interview, not even realizing the mic was still on. Miracles are not always thunder and lightning. He paused, voice low. Sometimes they are calloused feet, a song hummed off key, a whisper in the dark. Then he looked down. And sometimes they do not come to fix you. They come to remind you were never broken.